Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. It's Monday. What does that mean? Mental Health Monday. It's literally Monday. It's 6 AM. I had no time to film this week and I really wanted to, you know, start the new year right, get back into it. So it's 6 AM. But I have work in literally an hour, so I was like, you know what, I'll get up, get ready before work, and then we'll film a video and then I can go. So today we're going to be talking about binge eating, and I know this is such a hard and emotional topic to talk about. People don't, like literally people don't talk about it. I used to struggle with binge eating so much, and there was about a year and a half in my life where for months and months, on and off, I would just struggle with binging so much, and it was awful because I've had a lot of like dealings with mental health issues, etc., but binge eating was probably one of the times that I felt the most out of control, and it was probably one of the worst. Like I would put it in top three, one of the worst things I had to deal with. There's one or two reasons why you clicked on this video. So number one, you're a subscriber of mine. If you are, then hey, welcome back. Or there's number two, and that is because you've been searching around trying to find videos about how to stop binge eating. And if you're number two, then I just want to say you are incredible. Like the fact that you've gone searching to try and find a coping mechanisms or like ways to stop. As someone who's struggled and now recovered from that, like basically I haven't binged in probably about 2 years now. I just want to tell you, you should not feel ashamed. You should not feel embarrassed or guilty. You're struggling with this and that is so fine. Like literally don't beat yourself up, because the fact that you're coming on this video and trying to help yourself is incredible. So just want to put that out there. Really brief background about how I used to struggle, etc. So when I was about 15, 16, I would come home from school and literally eat the house. Like literally eat the house. And it wasn't like a pleasurable experience, but I would do this every single day and I didn't understand why. Then when I was about 16, it was a real problem for me and I would binge and subsequently purge. And it was awful, but I just want to put a disclaimer, I'm not going to be talking about purging today, just because that is such a big, like, psychological problem that I just don't think I am equipped to cover with. Another disclaimer, this is just full of disclaimers. I'm not a dietitian, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a therapist. I'm just a girl who went through it and is trying to help you. So I'm not going to ramble on too much today. I'm going to hit you with 3 ways I stopped. These are the 3 ways that actually helped me stop completely binging. For anyone who's a bit confused, binging is not eating like a big family-sized bag of crisps. I still do that. You know, hand me the Doritos and I'm scaffing them up. I've had binges that are like really, really low in calories or whatever you want to measure them. It's the principle, that's what I want to get out. It's the principle of overeating when you don't want to. I didn't want to eat all of the food that I did. I felt out of control and I literally was like stuffing my face. It was horrendous. So I could eat loads, so I could eat thousands of calories now, and I wouldn't class it as a binge, because if I wanted to stop, I would. That's the difference. Now I'm able to be like, nah, I've had enough. That's it. So after all these disclaimers, let's just get into the video. So first of all, I'm not going to make you wait to the end of the video to try and find out the most like effective way. I'm going to give it you first. So this was the one thing that genuinely made me stop binging, and it's not going to be what you think. It's not like this overnight miracle. It's you. It's about changing your mindset. The way I stopped binging was as soon as I had the urge to binge, I stopped and I sat with it. So as soon as I had the urge to binge, I would actually just sit there. I would sit and I would experience that urge. This stopped me binging. This completely stopped me binging. When I was struggling with binging, I used to search the web, like trying to find ways to stop. It was awful and my mind just became so fixated on it. I was so angry and shamed and guilty when I was binging. I felt like I was literally the worst person in the world. I felt so fat and ugly and I genuinely hated myself. I would sit and watch people eat and I'd just be so jealous that they could stop, it was unreal, and that would kind of generate this really negative energy towards them from me, because I was like, I don't understand how you do it. It really, really lowered my mood. It was definitely, now I recognise, stress induced. Stress was like a massive trigger for me. Basically, I was searching the web, like I said, and I came across this book called Brain Over Binge. Now, this isn't sponsored or anything like that. This genuinely helped me. It was a book I bought because I was struggling. I bought the ebook, and I really love the insight of recognising our cognitive, like, behavioural patterns and like why I was doing what I was doing. So one of the tips it kind of gave in this book was, when you feel the urge, you have to sit with it. And I was literally like, what the fuck? Like, literally what? No, like, that's not gonna stop me. But it did. So there was a point in time when I used to binge and purge up to like 8-9 times a day. It was awful. It ruled my life. So basically, when it comes to sitting with your urge, I've learned that you cannot, like, you physically cannot stay in this red zone forever. Like, you can't stay in it. I call the really high urge a red zone. It's like a 5 out of 5 urge. And it's like, the only way I can describe it is when you're really angry, you don't stay angry for hours. You know, like when you're furious, you can't stay in that place for 5 hours or whatever. It's normally about 5 minutes. So like, you'll get really angry, and in that 5 minutes, that's when your brain kind of just goes into fight mode and you just do whatever, really impulsive. Then you calm down and it's like, you're still angry, but it's manageable and you can make rational decisions. That's what it's like when you get that urge to binge. But obviously, but then you calm down and it's like, you're still angry, but it's manageable and you can make rational decisions. That's what it's like when you get that urge to binge. So at this point, when you recognize, so the first thing you need to do is recognize when you want to binge. And at that point, that's when you tell yourself, right, I am going to sit in a room like I did. I used to sit in my living room, I'd turn the TV off, and I used to sit kind of like in the dark, like whatever time of day it was, and I would wait. And I would recognize what I was feeling at that time. So I would notice that I was feeling like very tense. My teeth would probably grit. My feet were like dead on the floor. My fists were like clenched. I recognized that my heart rate would go really fast, and my thought process was extremely fast. So it was like thought, all flying through my head at once. And when you notice the signs of a binge, it makes it so incredibly easier to then prevent it. So there were times when I would sit for like 10 minutes and I would literally sit and I'd notice it. And then there were times that I would sit for like 45 minutes. You have to sit there and you have to experience your body. You have to know what's going on. Try and name your emotions. Like, so a lot of the time I would think, I'd be like, no, I'm so angry. And near the end, when I was getting better at it, I would notice that I was scared or sad. And that was why. And my secondary emotion was anger. That was coming out, that was very obvious. I knew that I was experiencing that. But then my primary emotion was kind of sadness or fear. And when you start noticing that, that's when you can find out your triggers. And finding out your triggers is one of the most important things when stopping binging, because how can you stop something if you don't know how it starts? That's what I always think. You can't. Like, you need to go back to square one before you can get to square eight. Just put it out there. If you're finding this hard to get your head around, I like to think of it like waves. So imagine you're on a beach and the waves are like proper strong, you know, like proper strong. They're fighting against you. They're really like, the current is going. So at that point, that's like your urges. They're really strong. They're fighting you. They're trying to knock you down. They're trying to make you do shit. You can do one of two things. You can fight these waves and, you know, you can get your fists out and try and fight them. But are you gonna win? Like, who fights water and wins? Literally no one. Not even the Titanic. It doesn't work. What about if you got out of the sea and you got your towel out on the beach and lay on the sand? Who's winning then? Who's winning then? Let me ask you, who is winning? You are. Because these urges and these thoughts might be going crazy and trying to do everything to get rid of you and like make you, I don't know what the word is, like bow down to them. I don't know. If you totally get yourself out of that situation and you lie on the beach and you watch the waves can do all the shit they like, but they still can't reach you because you're sat there, you're watching them and you're calm. you're not in danger, you're winning. You're winning. That's how I like to think of it. And that's a really important thing, because when I was reading about binging, etc., everywhere said to distract. And it was so hard because I would always try and distract, you know, they'd be like, do something nice, paint your nails, take a bath. And it's like, yeah, okay, cool. I'm gonna paint my nails, but I'm still gonna wanna binge after. And I tell you what, the urge is gonna get so much stronger because I'll be painting my nails and then I'll be wanting to eat crisps. Then I'll get crisps all in my wet nails. Will I win? No. I will look shit and I'll have to take off the nail varnish because it looks awful. So the psychology of this is, we have like an animal brain, that's what I'm gonna call it. And in our prefrontal cortex, we have our human brain. And the animal brain and the human brain, when in like binging, etc., kind of fight. They don't get on, they don't collaborate. Our animal brain is from when we were way back, you know, when we were the apes and shit, if you don't believe in whatever, you know, just go with it, okay? When we were back then, we would fight, flight, or, you know, stand still. That's the kind of, you all know that. When we deprive our body, which I'm making assumptions here, but I'm assuming that a lot of you, you know, are either trying to lose weight, you're in that mindset. It's like a massive thing with binging that I've come across, is that people are unhappy. They've either been through a lot of kind of starvation, eating disorders, or you're in that mind frame where it's like, you're just trying to lose weight and you can't because you keep binging. I'm just making assumptions, correct me if I'm wrong, but it still applies either way. I just want to put it out as well, I've never been diagnosed with an eating disorder, I don't have an eating disorder, I just have struggled in various other ways down to control. That's just a disclaimer. Anyway, so our animal brain is our fight or flight. When we're depriving our body of food and nutrients it needs, this is when our animal brain kicks in. It tells us that, fuck, we need food ASAP because we're gonna starve. It's like survival mode, that's what it goes into. And that's exactly why when you're going to binge, you don't binge on celery, do you? Like, who binges on celery? No one. If you do binge on celery, then I'm pretty sure you dip it in shitloads of hummus or shitloads of peanut butter, and you just get all these like weird combinations of food that are often high in fat, because our brain is clever, it knows which food is needed. So we normally go for the high sugar, high fat foods because that's what we would need to survive if we were starving. As you can tell, the animal brain isn't as developed and as smart as our human brain. Our human brain is exactly like what controls us. The human brain is you. You are enabling yourself to do this. The animal brain, however, isn't you. It's a part of our brain that hasn't fully developed yet. And the problem is, when we go into survival mode, it becomes a habit of us thinking that we're in danger, thinking that we're gonna starve, thinking that we need to survive, and thus need to go and grab loads of food. And because it's a habit, that's when our human brain becomes kind of fixated. It goes on autopilot. We no longer think about the rational, irrational thing. It's like, okay, we've done this so many times before, this must be okay. So where I'm basically going with this is that we need to learn and reteach our human brain not to act on the animal brain. Learning how you're actually feeling, that's when you can decipher whether you need to eat or not. When you're sat there and you're registering everything that's going on in your body, you need to think, am I hungry? Am I actually hungry? Like, actually, not what my brain is thinking, like, ignore the brain. In my stomach, am I hungry? Have I eaten? Because if you're hungry, you need to eat, but you need to not be in that binge kind of mind frame. What I would say is that if you realise that you're hungry, then you need to plan, okay? You need to sit probably a bit longer because you are gonna have to go to food after. Probably sit a bit longer and decide exactly what you're gonna eat. And, okay, sorry about all the ramble, but this leads me on to step 2. So step 2 is that we need to plan meals ahead. We really, really do. And I know for a lot of people this is kind of scary. It's something that they won't stick to, you know, they'll be like, okay, I'm gonna have breakfast, lunch and dinner, and then they'll get to lunch and they'll be like, I'm not actually that hungry, I could probably skip lunch. So then you skip lunch, but then you get really hungry later, and then you binge before dinner. That's what happens. That is literally what happens. I know the cycle, I've been there. Trust me. It's normal for humans to eat like every 3 hours basically. That means, if you put it into context, 3 meals and like 3 snacks a day. That is normal. I don't think I could stress this enough for you. This is normal. We should eat this. We are grown people. We need food. to survive. Please, please, please don't deprive yourself of food, because it really, really, really won't get you anywhere. Really won't. When you're trying to crack the habit of binge eating, you can't be in your mind frame that you need to lose weight. That was what I was in. For ages I was in the mind frame, no, I need to lose weight, and it would just be so unhealthy in my mind that I couldn't stop binging because I couldn't get out the mind frame that I needed to lose weight, and it made food like a negative thing in my life. It's awful. Like literally there are videos of me, if I can insert them, biggest puffiest face, like the worst hair, straggly hair, because I just had no nutrients, I had awful skin, and I was so much more larger than I wanted to be. How can you lose weight if you're also struggling with overeating? Like, if you put it really simply, it just doesn't work. So please, please, please don't try. I know it's so hard and you probably feel so bad. I get it, but things will get better if you firstly crack the habit of binging. If you crack it, then we can move on. Then you can try and lose weight healthily. I promise you, it will work. That's what I did. I just want to tell you, there is no such thing as good and bad food. It pisses me off so much in the media when it's like, good and bad food. Like, these are good foods and these are bad foods. No, they're not. Everything eaten in moderation is fine. It's literally fine. Don't let your mind cut out food. So we need to do a meal plan, okay? We need to plan it out. And it's going to be manageable things. Things that we are able to eat. If you're used to kind of restricting in the day, don't give yourself a fuck off big lunch, because you probably won't be able to do it because you'll feel even more guilty. Give yourself manageable things, okay? Make sure that you're getting around 1800 to 1000 calories a day. A good amount of carbs, good amount of protein, like fruit and veg. Get them in there, and also fats, like get them in there. Your body is used to like sugar overload. That's another thing, okay? So your brain is used to kind of eating really fatty, sugary foods. When you stop eating that amount of sugar and fat, it's gonna get scared and not know what's going on, because binge eating is an addiction. You're addicted to, you know, the food and the hormones and everything that's released when you eat, when you overeat, because it does release dopamine and that, because it's an addiction. At the start, you kind of need to still balance that sugar and fats. Obviously not in the amount, but leave a link down below where you can kind of search what's good for you. When you're trying to crack a habit like this, having something that's really like strict is good, because it teaches you to control yourself again. Plan your meals, that's great. Like, go on shopping, like treat yourself. Do it that way, self-soothe in that way. Go shopping and find foods that you will want, you will eat, and will stop you binging. So at this point, try and avoid the things that you normally binge on, whether that's like big bags of crisps. Crisps comes up a lot for me because that's what I used to eat. Just, you know, be smart, do what you like, but also buy your favourite food. So if you really, really love, I don't know, Ben & Jerry's ice cream, buy it. But this is like the key bit. I don't want you to be really strict on yourself all week and then think, oh, on Friday I get to eat that whole tub of ice cream, because that's not necessarily a healthy, balanced mind. Instead, we should go, okay, every day I'm gonna have 2 scoops of ice cream before I go to bed. That way, you'll be able to get your sweet kind of treat. It's a good food, you know, it's fine, and you're not binging on it. You're just giving yourself it in moderation, and that's so good. Like, that's what I had to do. I had to literally limit the way I would eat and change my whole thought pattern over what I was doing. Don't be too strict on yourself with like portions, etc. Like, we just need to get that habit out. So instead of just like, you know, I used to watch videos and people like, give yourself a portion of this, use a smaller plate, and I'm like, nah. First of all, I've just got to get in the habit of eating three meals and 3 snacks. It doesn't matter what they look like at the moment. If I can get that and not binge through one day, then that's fine. Take it one day at a time. We're gonna do this one day at a time. I also just want to mention, please don't rely on coffee and, you know, like diet pills or anything, because they really, really stimulate you. They increase your heart rate, but since you're withdrawing from an addiction, like, if we're going to be honest, this is what's going on, and again, there's nothing to be ashamed about, but your brain is already massively stimulated and it doesn't need any more stimulants. I'm not saying cut out coffee, but maybe go for like decaf or something while you're trying to break the habit. And then the last thing I'm going to tell you is about self-soothing. And this isn't kind of like paint your nails and have a bath bomb, because obviously that's self-soothe, but I'm on about day to day, hour to hour. let's self-soothe. I want you to make sure you're drinking enough water, because a lot of the time when you're dehydrated, your body doesn't understand and it thinks it's hungry when you're actually very dehydrated. And we need to make sure we're getting a good 8 hours of sleep, because sleeping for me was one of the worst things, was that if I didn't sleep well, I'd wake up exhausted, and then what happens when you're tired? You want to overeat because you have zero energy. Like, that's what we want to do. We kind of want to get ourselves to sleep on time, don't stay up all night, because first of all, staying up means that you're more likely to binge because you're aware, you're awake, etc. But also it means in the morning there are no good things that come of it because you're tired and you're exhausted. And this also doesn't help with your cognitive thinking because you're tired and you can't think straight. The most important thing I think with self-soothe is the way we think about ourselves. This is so important when it comes to binging. If you have thoughts constantly, I hate myself, I'm such a fat pig for binging all the time, I can't do it, I hate this. If you keep reiterating that in your head, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It means that when you look in the mirror, the first thing you think is fat, loser, failure, and then that reinforces the negative emotion and the negative cycle. And because of that, that's what reinforces binging. If you feel shit, you're gonna eat to try and fill that void, and then you're gonna feel shit. And then it happens all again. It's just the cycle of binging. And it's shit. I feel you. It's awful. So I don't want you to tell yourself, I'm so out of control, I'm such a failure. The biggest thing I learned to do was use the past tense. So I would go, oh, yesterday was so horrible, I binged and I was really sad. Past tense. It changes everything, because doing that, you're saying to yourself, that was yesterday, today is another day. Instead of, I'm a failure, I binged, I hate myself. Do you see the difference? And it's so, so, so important to kind of keep telling yourself, that was yesterday, I'm gonna do this instead. Okay? Fake it till you fucking make it. That's the way I've learned. That's the best thing I've learned through therapy, and that you need to fake it till you make it. And you will make it, but you gotta fake it first. Also through self-soothe, let's do realistic scenarios. This is something that I used to do. I'm such like a daydreamer, like I'm in my head a lot of the time, I like to think a lot, etc. And scenarios are what are hard. So if you're in school or work or uni and in your head all you can think about is, oh, there's all that food in the thing, I'm so scared that I'm gonna get home and I'm gonna binge. We're gonna change that, okay? And we're not gonna use the word should. That's something that I learned early on, was that once I say I should not binge, it's like a child being told by an adult that they shouldn't do something, and their immediate reaction is, I want to do it, I'm gonna do it because you told me not to. Instead it's like, I will try and not binge when I get home. Do you see the kind of gentle aspects of that? Instead of, I should not binge, I should not binge when I get home, I will try and not binge when I get home. That is just so much more kinder to yourself. You're being so much more gentle, and that's what you need. You need support and you need love at this point, because it's really difficult. And I know a lot of you probably don't want to be nice to yourself. I didn't want to be nice to myself. But again, we need to fake it. We need to fake it till we make it. I will try and not binge tonight. I will try. That is the best thing you can say to yourself. Literally, if you start being kinder to yourself, you will find that you're getting somewhere. If you carry on in this hateful cycle, you won't get anywhere, I can guarantee you. And finally, I just want to say, if you do binge, don't beat yourself up, okay? We need positive reinforcement. It's like when I was training my dog. I'm not saying any of you are dogs, you know, I was in this situation too. I was basically a dog and I needed to be trained. When I'm training my dog, I don't tell him off, I tell him when he's been good. And he's been so much better behaved than my old dog, because he notices that, oh, I'm gonna do this instead because this gets me a treat, this gets me some love, you know, I get cuddled when I get this. It's so much better than, don't you fucking do that, you little shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, punishment in emotional situations don't work. I'm putting it out there. They just don't, because you don't want to do it. You need some comfort, you need some love, and it's so important for us to keep telling ourselves that we're okay. You know, we're good people and it's not our fault, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it. That's what we need to keep telling ourselves, because it's so important. I know I'm being very like enthusiastic in this, but it's so important, and I'm really passionate about spreading awareness and allowing people to talk about it. You know, we can talk about having anorexia, but people don't talk about bulimia or binge eating disorder or EDNOS. They don't talk about it because it's not socially whatever bullshit it is. If you are struggling, then please, at least try out these things. Let me know if they work. Also, if you have anyone you can tell them. I never told anyone, and it was so difficult, and I had to do it by myself, and I fully did it. But if I had someone just to kind of support me, give me a bit of emotional support when I couldn't give it to myself, that would be so great. But I just want to let you know that you have the willpower, it's inside you. So after all that ramble, I have literally got to leave for work now. But I love you guys so much, like I love you, and I'm so sorry if any of you are going through this. My Instagram DMs are always open, and yeah, I will leave some articles below that really helped me. I'll leave a link to Brain Over Binge, and yes, on that note, I shall see you all in my next video. I have another murder mystery kind of thing on Friday. I think I'm calling it Freaky Friday, what's your opinions? And yeah, I love you all so much. So much.